That means we did something good. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you. We got?
Well, I guess I can start. I don't think we saw you out there for the portion that we could see.
During the special.
Baker was throwing to the.
Oh, that's because I was playing the part of Chris Godwin. I was one of the slot receivers in our mini field third down progression. So.
But I think what I want to ask is, there's been a report that you're being interviewed.
Yeah.
Is it a challenge to focus on the game plan when you have that going on at the same time, Dave?
Not at all. I think for me, the biggest thing that your film is your resume. So the biggest thing I can do for any opportunities is to really focus on having another week like last week where we were in rhythm, the mix of the run and pass, everything coming together, and that was just a full focus on the opponent, and we got our hands full this week with the fantastic team going up to a great place. The fans are all fired up there, I'm sure, so I really just got to be locked in on that. And again, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. And so I have some stuff prepared that I've had for a couple of years, and really fortunate to have been with Pete for 14 years, and his approach was always grooming us for what the next thing is to continue to expand our mind and be prepared. So if these opportunities come up, we're ready to talk about philosophy and football and all those things.
As loud as it's going to be up there.
Yeah.
How vital is it just to try to establish something early to try to get the fans out of the game a little bit?
Yeah, it's critical, right? I've seen that happen. You go to a place that's a really hostile environment, and if you can have success, it does quiet them down some. But I think this is something they've been waiting for a really long time, and I don't anticipate they're going to let off the gas at all. So, we're practicing our silence and the different variations of those things, and we've had some good practice at some pretty loud places. So, hopefully, we can continue the communication and be clean that way.
Lions secondary is, I don't want to say dirty, but aggressive.
Yeah.
They like to hit. How do you still be aggressive yourself, but also protect the players from absorbing those big hits that they're going to try to deliver?
We don't think that way. I expect every single week we go out there, you got a bunch of pros, a bunch of NFL players that are paid to play hard. This is a fantastic defense. They're aggressive. They're grabby. They're chippy, all those things. And it's only going to get harder and worse the further you get into the playoffs. So we're really looking forward to the challenge. And again, like we've talked about throughout the season, it's these types of games that really show us where we're at as a team. And so I'm literally looking forward to the test, and it's going to require all of us to be on the same page and play fast.
What jumps out at you when you go back and look at the tape against the Lions in Week 6 this year?
Oh, we're just, we know who we are. Similar conversation as last week, we got to play the Eagles, and we know what our identity is. We know the issues that can present themselves, and so we'll hopefully have some answers for whatever they try to throw at us that day. Coach Aaron Glenn is a fantastic defensive coordinator. He's fiery. JC, you mentioned the juice. It comes from him and the head coach. So another great opportunity, great championship moment for us to go out there and play. But I think for sure, just as far as what they're doing, a couple of little things that they've added throughout a long season. But for us, it's really about the execution and the place that we're at now.
You guys had 6 drops in the first half, uncharacteristic for this team. What kinds of things are you doing this week to fix that, or what do you attribute that to?
I couldn't really tell you. That just happens sometimes, and I would love to see in a day where we made all those plays, for the guys that were coming to life, Cade really doing a fantastic job, in the game. And we've been talking about that compliment to Mike, when teams do stuff to try to neutralize Mike, while everybody else has to contribute. And Trey, David Moore, Cade, Chris had a couple of ops in there. So, and for sure, and certainly the run game, is a big part of that too. So really not overemphasizing those things. I really don't like to get into our players' heads with those types of things. It's just they're excited. It's a playoff game, and we just got to learn how to play with composure and those things and make the easy ones when they're there.
Canales, Tristan Wirfs has told us many times there's 2 things you can control, attitude and effort.
Yeah.
How much has that mentality woven itself into the identity of your offense?
Oh, it's huge. I think that's the greatest way to keep things simple and keep the focus really clean of things that we can actually worry about, that we can actually have an impact and an effect on. And so, it helped us through a 4-game losing streak. It helped us through a 4-game winning streak as well. It's like, guys, whatever happened last week, we got things to fix from this game. Let's attack those fundamentals. let's communicate well, and we did a good job of taking care of the ball and eliminating penalties for the most part last week, and that was huge. I think, across the playoff world and wild card weekend, a crazy weekend, but the quarterbacks who had no turnovers ended up winning those games, and Hurts didn't. He didn't have a turnover, but we had the safety. There was a turnover on downs, and so that's where it kind of flipped in our favor. But just the little things, that's really critical for us.
You said you're going to be mindful of how Baker felt going into the game.
Yeah.
And it appeared, I don't know how he felt, but it appeared that he was able to throw the ball, be aggressive, maybe better than Carolina. So how has he been able to kind of work through what was some fairly serious injuries there?
Yeah, it starts with his mentality. I think for him it was like, here's our game. This is the only one we got. So there is no saving myself for next week. There's no thought that way. It's this game. It's the most important. And he woke up feeling good. He had all day to rest and recover and be ready. But I think even throughout the week, it just felt like last week, it felt like a celebration of a bunch of guys who have been through some hard days together. I woke up feeling that way on Monday. It wasn't a sense that like I woke up feeling like, hey, we're going to win this one. I didn't have that thought in my mind, but it was just I woke up thinking, how cool is this? We get to celebrate this moment together at home with our fans, winning the division, so you get a home game. It was really special. The feeling was special with the guys, and then as we had some early success, I saw us play faster and tougher and more physical, and then the balance of the runs and the actions, and it was just a beautiful, just another one of those moments that we talked about early on. I said, guys, in training camp, there's going to be a game where you can feel it, and we talked about that last week. I asked them, guys, talk to me about the games where you could feel it, and they talked about Houston, talked about Green Bay, talked about San Francisco, and really the tide changed on a turnover, before the half, but just some of those drives and moments, the Falcons game to win it at the end, the second half knowing, guys, we can run the ball when we have to if they're going to make it hard on us in other ways. So just a celebration of all those things coming together again.
Along those lines, a year ago this week, you're still in Seattle.
Yeah.
You take a risk leaving a comfortable place to come here. The Bucs certainly took a risk on you.
Yeah.
What have the past 12 months been like to reach this point? You're in the second round of the playoffs. The ups and downs for yourself personally, just describe those 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, quick timeline. So for me, the excitement of just like what was here, Mike was still here. Chris is here. Tristan was here. There was a possibility of Ryan Jensen, and Rashad, who I really liked. We liked him coming out, Cade, who we really liked coming out. So there was a lot of pieces that were already in place here on the offensive side, So for me, the football excitement of like, wow. Like even talking to Brad, who was like my first hire I was like, Brad, really tough year you got this year. You got Mike and Chris Godwin, like as your first time coaching receivers. So so that's kind of the football part of it, the excitement of what could be, of what could become us. And then, from the personal family side of it, it was rough now. I mean, moving our family all the way across the country is about as far as you could get, away from Seattle, Washington, and my wife really holding it down for, a couple of weeks to get to the point where we could bring our kids. Then we had to find a school, and bopping in and out of hotels. We lived with Brad for a little while, which is a challenge in and of itself. But then just as we've just settled into Tampa and meeting the community, meeting the people here in this building, the parks, the baseball teams, all those things has really become a special place for us, and then of course just a new offense, starting a new offense and getting those words down, getting the mentality the right way, and playing the football that I had envisioned we could become. So it's been a crazy year for sure. But also just so blessed, so fortunate. Obviously, Coach Carroll gets fired, and here I am sitting in this opportunity to go to the playoffs again, and just can't help but just feel gratitude for this moment, for the timing of it all, and just still waking up every day with that thought, like, wow, how cool is this?
When you get Trey and David Moore, going in the game, how much does that open up for you as a play caller when you got these other guys stepping up and now they've got to worry about them too?
Yeah, it's deadly, right? Because everybody's going to try to tilt something to Mike. They're going to try to put an extra safety over there or have a backer kind of play inside and take some things away. So if that whole other side of the field, make them defend all the grass, really becomes a factor for us. And then how it helps in the run game too. If they're going to, sell out on taking Mike away, well, we got a real run game and some actions that came to life for us in the game too.
We've seen the connection with Mike and Baker It's not promised that they're gonna be here next year, but
Yeah.
just what would it mean to be able to continue having those two key weapons for your offense next year?
Yeah, continuity is huge, right? But we all know every team is going to be different. And even the guys that come back are all going to be different. There's contract things, there's family things, people are getting married, people are having kids, there's deaths in the family, and so it really changes each player individually. It becomes really important for us to just reconnect, as we come back in after the season, whenever that happens, but having some of those big key pieces, very important, very important for us going forward. And, like when you mention it, the first thing I think about, though, is like, don't miss any single day. Like, enjoy every practice, enjoy every meeting we get to be in there, going through the same stuff we always go through. We got all these inside jokes at this point. We've been together for so long, and just really cherishing each week at a time. And for me, it really started to feel that way, like in the Carolina week. Last week of the season, we don't know what's going to happen. We're trying to make the playoffs here, so really just enjoying that week, then enjoying the wild card week, and now just enjoying this divisional round week to be able to work together, talk. Can't wait to get upstairs to just talk to the coaches, watch the film, and make little tweaks. It's kind of the really the highlight of my week, is to sit with the staff and troubleshoot things.
How were you able to stay kind of mentally present and have that kind of to be gracious, have that gratitude in these moments when you're also like, I've got to plan for this game, and I've got to, I'm sure you're not probably sleeping much. Just how it seems like those would be kind of difficult to balance.
For me, it starts with my faith. It's about this amazing story that the Lord is telling. It's about the timing of being here at this right time. It's Baker, for this moment. And so for me, that allows me to rise above the pressure of, you got to do this, you got to do that. I know there's high expectations every single week. Nothing is promised for us, but if I can keep the big picture of just how amazing this moment is, then it just dissolves all that pressure, and it allows me to just stay focused, stay connected with the guys, especially during the games, when it gets heated. It's like, let's come off, let's talk, let's work through it together, so just maintaining that togetherness and gratitude of where we're at.
Sometimes a playoff opponent,
sorry.
sometimes a playoff opponent can be brand new, where your prep kind of starts from scratch.
Yeah.
You guys not only saw Detroit earlier this year, but you went into Detroit with Seattle last year and had some success there.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that help, just in terms of knowing how that defense attacks your offense?
It helps a lot, feels a lot different than going into Minnesota week one and Brian Flores, who's an amazing coordinator and, did some really difficult stuff. But at the same time, they know us, and they've played against a similar system. So he's going to have some answers and some things we're going to have to adjust throughout the game. So definitely advantages on both sides to this.
In terms of your system, when you came down here with an idea, a playbook of what you wanted to install here, of course it's evolved. It's not Seattle's offense, it's Tampa Bay's offense.
Right.
How different is it from when you walked in the building with your playbook and your ideas, and as you've evolved and changed and grown throughout the season, knowing these players?
Yeah.
What's that difference like from when you first got here to what you've created now?
I think it was just the excitement, anticipation of becoming us. And each game kind of takes on that as well. But I think from a core offensive identity, the great part about our system is it's versatile, and it allows us to adjust to who the quarterback is. Who are these offensive linemen? What's my back like? What are the route stems that are great for Mike, for Chris, which as we all know, just grinding through, learning Chris, learning how to use him the best way. All of those things, it was like a full season, work to get that done. So I'm really excited about where we've ended up, but just the commitment to becoming us, not us becoming this system, And so I think we've seen that happen, and last week was a real culmination and, a celebration of what it could look like with all the different things that we were able to do.
Your coaches say all the time to players, don't do too much. How difficult is it as the play caller, as a coach in a playoff situation, to just not do too much?
Yeah, it takes a discipline. It takes a real discipline to just call the next play for the right situation as opposed to chasing plays. I think that's part of my growth as a first-time play caller throughout the season is don't chase that exciting call when it's a low percentage you're going to get the right look that you want. So it is difficult in that regard, but the consistency, just the commitment to the run game early on, especially when we're getting those 65, 75-yard rushing days to say, guys, we're going to need this at the end of the season and into the playoffs. We're going to need a run game to be committed to those things. So, real challenge.
If you could describe this,
Last one.
if you could describe this team in one word, what would it be?
Finish. We've done it all year. We've finished halves. We've finished games, whether we were ahead in 4 minutes or whether it was a 2-minute drive. It's been our calling card for the skill players, Baker for the offensive line, for guys to rise up, for Rashad to finish games aggressively. How many times have we seen it? We're in a 4-minute, and here he goes, and he's clipping off these yards, and there goes a 30-yarder, at the end. But I think finish would, at least for our side, and I know for the defensive side, has been one of our calling cards this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.